Lazarus opened his eyes to a place filled with warm, golden light, and his heart jumped as he glanced around at the unfamiliar room. In a flash, he recalled Mary's tears, Martha pressing his face and body with damp towels over and over again, the bitter taste of medication, his body feeling heavier as each day passed. But he didn't feel sick anymore. He felt whole, energetic, like a new person. The temperature was just right, and a soft breeze blew in through open windows. His dark skin gleamed under the rays of light falling through the window, and he ran a hand through his short locks. A statuesque but gentle-looking woman glided in. "Welcome, Lazarus," she said with a smile. "I'm Deborah. Let me take you to your room." The streets were wide and gleaming and pristine clean. Everywhere was so organized, but he couldn't help giving her side glances as they walked. "Something on your mind?" she chuckled. "You're the Deborah, right?" he blurted, although a dozen other questions buzzed in his mind. "Famous judge with Barack, etc.? "Yes," she nodded graciously, but in a way that made him suspect that she'd answered this same question 1,000 times before. "You called my name earlier. You know me?" "Not really," she admitted. "From your file." "Oh." The room she took him to was spacious and cozy and smelled like citrus. "Take your time settling in. There's a potluck tonight. Come meet everyone. Room 777. See you." Later, Lazarus found room 777 easily. The potluck was in full swing when he entered. The atmosphere was warm and full of fellowship, with songs from different languages and tribes playing softly in the background. The long tables were covered with all kinds of food. There was fragrant jollof rice from Nigeria, spicy suya skewers, tender wake with stew from Ghana, fufu with peanut soup, and aromatic Ethiopian injera with different stews. Someone had also brought crispy fried plantains and fresh moi moi. Mixed in were a few familiar favorites like pepperoni pizza and juicy burgers. For drinks, there were chilled glasses of zobo and fruit juices, sweet ginger beer, refreshing bisap, Chapman, and cold palm wine. Lazarus looked around amazed. Deborah was a familiar face manning the snack bar. She waved him over with a smile. "You all eat here?" he asked, eyes still darting around in wonder.
"Of course," she laughed. "Why not? It's one of the pleasures of this place. Feel free to bring something next time." As he moved around, he met several people, amazed at his instant recognition of them. His heart thrummed, seeing heroes he'd only heard or read about before now. It was surreal that he could be in the same room with them, breathe the same air. He spoke with Boaz, who shared how he met Ruth. "God's grace found me when I least expected it," Boaz said with a smile. "I was just being kind, and God turned it into something beautiful." Lazarus felt a small throb of what might have been regret. He hadn't gotten a chance to get married, but remembered Martha teasing him about Yeti from down the street, a sweet girl with the most beautiful eyes. "I see the way you look at each other," she'd hooted. He had nearly melted that day, from embarrassment and from the ring of truth. He had really liked her, but now? He pushed away the thought of what might have been, shook his head, and kept socializing. He met Hannah, who told him about her years of prayer and how God answered her cry for a child. She reminded him of his sister, Mary, so that he didn't have the heart to interrupt her by saying he knew her story already, that she was famous. Hannah said, "Courage comes when you pour out your heart to God, even when it hurts." Lazarus's eyes bugged when he saw Solomon. Tall, charismatic, he stood out. Solomon noticed and came over, his expression warm. "You're new," he remarked. Lazarus felt embarrassed. "I'm sorry for staring. You look so regal. Are you aware that some people preach that you missed the way and are on," Lazarus coughed delicately, "the other side?" "It's okay," Solomon said. "People sometimes doubt I'd be here because of my many wives and mistakes," he admitted. "But God's grace is bigger than our failures. Before I died, I returned to the wisdom I once taught, thanks to the covenant God made with my father David." Finally standing before David, Lazarus's tongue was tied for a minute. But it's hard to not relax when your hero hands you a glass of chilled zobo and tells you he's had 3 himself. Laughing, Lazarus asked, "They call you a man after God's own heart. How did you do it?" David smiled calmly. "I took it one step at a time. I'm not perfect, of course, no one is. But what kept me grounded was always remembering who my shepherd was, the one who lifted me from the sheepfold, protected me, and promised never to let me go." Jeremiah shared honestly, "They call me the weeping prophet." And yes, there were many tears. "Are things much different now?" he asked Lazarus curiously. Lazarus thought about the greed of men, the corruption of leaders, things becoming more and more difficult as wickedness and godlessness seemed to increase, even amongst people who claimed to know God. "No," he said soberly, "not much different." Jeremiah sighed. "Well, the same way God gave me purpose even in the pain, He will do the same for all who trust in Him. His plans are always good, even when we don't understand them." Lazarus was a bit uncomfortable around Rahab. She laughed when she understood. It helps when we understand we all have equal footing before God, in spite of the things we've done. I was once an outsider, but one act of faith changed everything. God redeems anyone who turns to Him, no matter their past. Esau joined the conversation too. Buff and hairy with a booming laugh, he shared stories of family struggles and forgiveness. I learned that God's purposes go beyond our mistakes and rivalries. Lazarus felt a deep peace as he walked through a heaping plate of Senegalese jollof. He quietly missed his sisters Mary and Martha. He remembered their anxiety and worry and helplessness as he deteriorated, and overhearing how they'd sent for Jesus. Jesus hadn't arrived before Lazarus had found himself here. He only wished he had more time to say goodbye. Then Moses stood up, clapped his hands for order and said, "We have a new addition today. His name is Lazarus from Benin." The room applauded. Moses asked if he'd like to say a few words. Lazarus stood, his nervousness diminishing the longer he spoke. "I've been so overwhelmed meeting all of you, people I've only read about. It's built my faith so much. I was wondering why I left Earth so early. I miss my family, but talking to all of you, it's clear again that God has a plan. I have had the privilege to meet the promised one, the one descended from David's line." The whole place erupted with joy, filled with an explosion of African languages. Moses calmed them. "Let the boys speak Torioloro." Lazarus continued, "This man is the coolest person ever. He is not loud, but when he speaks, everyone listens. He talks about showing love and not just talking about it, about turning the other cheek, about worshiping God in truth. I was honored to know him. He would come to our house for meals and we supported his ministry every way we could. My sister Martha was always getting in a tizzy. I think she had a crush." Everyone chuckled. "Who wouldn't though?" he continued. "He is the greatest. He is the Messiah, the Son of God. I was sick and hoped he would come and heal me because that's what he does. He heals people both inside and outside, from sickness and from sin. Although I'd hoped to see him one last time, I know I will in the future because that's what he teaches." Just then there was a rumble that made the floors tremble and everyone glanced at each other in surprise. It sounded like a voice, rich and full and powerful. Someone said, "Did you hear that?" The sound came again, but familiar this time, ringing out so that the curtains at the windows whooshed as if from a gust of strong wind. "Lazarus!"
Lazarus's eyes widened, his heart thumping in excitement. "That's Jesus, the Messiah I was telling you about." The voice called again, louder, the whole room quaking. "Lazarus, come out of there." Lazarus felt a strong pull, and his feet moved him to the doorway of their own volition. What was happening? Even his consciousness felt like he was fading fast. But Jesus was calling, and he had no choice but to round things off. He spoke quickly, joyfully. "It was amazing meeting all of you. I have to go." Everyone clapped and cheered. "Go, Lazarus! We're rooting for all of you still on your journey. We'll see you again." With a jolt, Lazarus came back to life, to the claustrophobic feeling of occupying limited space. He slid off the top of the coffin and stepped out right in front of Jesus. He looked down at himself and grimaced. He was wearing something lame and unflattering. And there he stood, Jesus, tall and unmovable as a rock, his eyes warm on seeing him, but tinged with red. He looked at Jesus with wonder, tears springing to his own eyes. "Don't tell me you cried for me." Jesus smiled warmly. "Yes, Lazarus, I love you. It hurt to know you had died." "Well, you could have just come earlier," Lazarus pointed out delicately, just saying. Jesus nodded, lips twitching. "True, this was for God's glory, but it truly wasn't your time yet. Come on, let's get you home. You could probably use a bath first." They both laughed as Jesus pulled him into a tight hug. Lazarus smiled through his tears. "I have so much to tell you, Guy." Jesus replied gently, "And I have much to tell you too. This proves that when you believe in me, even though you die, you will live." Some neighbors and friends standing around, who had stepped back in fear and apprehension when he had emerged, now rushed forward to greet him, faces etched with shock and curiosity. Most still kept him at a respectful distance, but who could blame them? It wasn't every day that someone who'd been dead for 4 days came back to life, looking and talking like nothing had happened. He heard squealing. His sisters, Mary and Martha, ran to him, weeping with joy as they embraced their brother once again. "I don't know why your own sickness will always be different," Martha grumbled, though through happy tears, smacking the back of his head lightly. Mary just smiled serenely as she held on tightly to his hand. "He is recovering, oh, take it easy, sis." Lazarus smiled. Things were returning to normal. But much later, when he was alone, he would sit and think about the other family he had met and interacted with in a potluck, in what felt like a dream sometimes. The men and women who had featured in stories from his childhood, who had shaped his faith, heroes in their own right, but very real people. And Lazarus would be even more encouraged to forge his own path of obedience and faith, which would be exemplary to others down the road.
Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, the story of Lazarus is so powerful, not just because it foreshadows Jesus' resurrection, but also for the love. Remember, Jesus knew he was going to raise Lazarus up, but he still grieved him. He wept. It shows his deep and abiding love for us. Let's celebrate that. See you in the next video.